It is a bad, bad day to be a theater owner in the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen. If you work in the theater industry, you are suffering right now. Hollywood is suffering big time as well. But more than anything, I think the theaters are suffering because they don't have the capital that the Hollywood studios have. And we have this absolutely demoralizing article from the Hollywood Reporter. It says, "Box office massacre. October revenue falls to 27-year low, excluding the pandemic. The dramatic downturn in North America is due to a scarcity of product and the failure of fall event picks to connect with audiences, including the ill-fated Tron Ares and Dwayne Johnson's The Smashing Machine." Look, I didn't think anybody actually thought that either of those movies were going to do like super big business. At least I certainly didn't think so in any respect. I know that Tron has the cult fan base behind it, but I didn't see it being one of those movies that was going to turn fortunes around for Disney this year. Certainly that's going to change with Avatar. I do believe that to be true. I think James Cameron has proven himself time and time again, but these numbers are really, really depressing. So this says Hollywood is shaping up to be scarier than expected. Halloween is shaping up to be scarier than expected for Hollywood and its exhibition partners, but not in a good way. Domestic box office revenue for October of 2025 is expected to come in at roughly $425 million, the worst showing in 27 years, according to ComScore. This excludes October 2020, the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic, when revenue was just a mere $55 million, powered by Christopher Nolan's Tenet. And somewhere Christopher Nolan is still bitter about that. You just know it. I'm bitter. I like that movie. I'm like the only person on earth who liked that movie, but I like Tenet. It still makes no sense to me, but I enjoyed it. I actually watched like a 2-hour video about like, this guy says like, I finally made Tenet make sense or something like that, and I watched it. The movie made even less sense to me after watching this guy's 2.5-hour video. The video is fantastic. I wish I remembered the YouTube channel off the top of my head. The video is fantastic, but it didn't make the movie make any more sense to me. It says otherwise, so we're going to continue now. Otherwise, the last time October was this low was 1997, when combined ticket sales were $385.2 million, not adjusted for inflation. In 1998, revenue jumped $455.6 million. Yeah, but like they said, not adjusted for inflation, so you know. It says the new millennium brought steady gains, save for a few bumps in the road before the pandemic hit. Programming in October, aside from Halloween-themed releases, was historically a chance for studios and indie distributors to take breathers following the summer blockbuster season and prepare for the year-end holidays. Look, I don't know, like off the top of my head, I watched the Scream 7 trailer yesterday. I don't know what what the release schedule is for those companies right now, but I would have loved to see them try and get Scream out at the Halloween season rather than putting it out in February, which is when I think it comes out. It says, but as the calendar year grew more and more crowded around the year-end holidays, studios starting relying on off-peak months and began opening higher-profile films in October. This culminated with a record of $832.8 million showing in 2018, when Sony's superhero pick Venom grossed $190 million in October alone, followed by awards contender A Star Is Born and the hit reboot of Halloween. And then it wasn't in October, but I do believe Aquaman came out in like the winter of that year. Maybe it came out at like Christmas or something like that. Somebody in the comments can let me know. But I remember people being like, why are you making like putting out a movie of a guy in the water, you know, in the winter as opposed to in the summer? It says, what went so wrong this time? It was a perfect storm of not enough product due to the ongoing production delays left over from the labor strikes, a horrible August, and a relatively weak September. Often carryover titles account for a large chunk of October revenue. The harder truth to bear, many October titles simply didn't resonate with general audiences. Disney's long-awaited Tron is this month's top earner, but has only brought in $63.4 million domestically to date. Excluding 2020, that's the lowest showing for the top film launching in October since DreamWorks' The Wallace and the Gromit movie 2 decades ago in 2005. Another miss was Dwayne Johnson's career star of The Smashing Machine, directed by Benny Safdie and was put up on A24. It's an R-rated drama. Look, it was one of those movies that got like 15-minute standing ovations, and you can always understand in Hollywood if you hear some news about a movie where it gets like a long-standing, endless ridiculous 20-minute standing ovation. You know that it's pretentious. You know that no normal person is going to care. Only art nerds are going to care. It's just not going to happen. Nobody's going to give a crap. And they didn't, to be fair. But it did launch The Rock as a more serious actor, which I know he wants to go in and keep doing. But I guess we'll have to wait for the Moana live action. If it weren't for the official release of Party of a Showgirl, Taylor Swift's 11th hour theatrical event tied to the release of her new album, things would be even worse. Billed as a cinematic experience versus a film, it brought in $34.2 million over the October 3rd to 5th weekend, crushing the Smashing Machine Japanese anime offerings, the Chainsaw Man, which came in well ahead of expectations when topping the October 24 to October 2025 weekend box office with 18 million, and September's Demon Slayer Infinity, which were both unexpected heroes. Yes, it does feel like increasingly so. The movies that are going to end up making you more money at the box office are not the ones you expect, but it is like the likes of a Demon Slayer or a K-pop Demon Hunter or something like that. And I think most of it's not just October. The reason that the theaters are suffering, the reason that the studios are suffering is because this movie was full of bombs that people on the internet tried to pretend weren't as bad as they were, like a Captain America Brave New World or a Thunderbolts, where they try to tell you what the budget was versus the return. The fact of the matter is nobody gets into movie making in Hollywood to lose money, and they definitely don't get into Hollywood to movie making to lose money, but they don't get in to make just a little bit of money either. They don't drop $180 million. I'm putting it in quotes there because we all know that's BS. They don't make movies for $180 million and then drop $100 million on marketing so that they can make $5 million at the box office. Especially when we talk about superhero movies these days, I guess you can talk about like rentals and pay VOD, but it's not like toy sales are making up this large scale number for like a superhero franchise. They're not making up the money in merch like they would back in the day with, say, a George Lucas, where yes, the movies made a lot of money, but they were drivers for toys and merchandise as well. It doesn't feel like that's what it's like in the cultural zeitgeist anymore. Look, these are some of the biggest flops of 2025. Snow White, of course, we all know. Budget was reportedly $270 million. It made $205 million at the box office. That's not including marketing, which means that it splits that $205 million with the theaters, even less for the overseas numbers, which means that it lost hundreds of millions of dollars and caused them irreparable damage over at Disney with all of the controversy, the hullabaloo around Rachel Zegler, around what that means for Disney princess movies, talking down to the films of the past. It had nothing to do with her comments about Israel and Palestine. I think it had everything to do with her perceived dismissal and disrespect to the original franchise, and it did Disney a lot of damage. Mickey 17, that was Robert Pattinson's movie. Total box office $133 million, budget of $118 million, which means, of course, it lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Captain America Brave New World, $415 million at the box office. Reported budget $180 million. Nobody in the world that has any functioning brain actually believes that, with the amount of reshoots and rewrites and reworkings that this movie went through. That is just the number that was reported at the end. It is not accurate. Nobody believes that. Thunderbolts, $382 million with a budget of $180 million. So even if that $180 million budget is accurate, and I don't think anybody believes that it is, you know, they're splitting that $382 million in half, which means it did not profit. LEO, $153 million at the box office, $200 million budget, lost money even if they kept 100% of the box office. The Alto Knights, nobody cares. Megan 2, you changed your formula. It's no longer the movie it was. Now it's some weird quasi-superhero franchise. Nobody cares. Made $39 million on a budget of $25, but it was not the runaway success that the original Megan was. Love Hurts, The Unbreakable Boy, all of these movies flopping at the box office. And then you look at what the outcome of that is now, ladies and gentlemen, which is it's consolidation, it's layoffs going on within all of these companies. The box office returns aren't there. The companies are buying themselves left and right. We have the Paramount and Skydance merger that just went through, which is causing layoffs from companies like this, on top of the fact that companies are now angling to make bids to buy Warner Brothers to consolidate even further, which will mean even less jobs for everyone all around and will provide you, the audience, with less unique voices to hear from, which is, of course, I'm not here to advocate for the artists. That's their job. They can advocate for themselves all they want. I'm here to advocate for choices for the audience because that's what I care about. I don't want to see Warner Brothers and Paramount Plus become one streaming service. My wallet would like it, but when it comes to making new stuff, I want unique voices all around. This is an article from Deadline. List of Hollywood and media layoffs from Paramount to Warner Brothers Discovery to CNN and more. With nearly only 4 months left in 2025, media layoffs across the Hollywood industry have continued to bleed over from last year's avalanche of job cuts. The unfortunate trend can still be felt following the COVID-19 pandemic, dual Hollywood strikes, and the latest event to hit Hollywood hard, which was a series of wildfires that broke out in January. As the entertainment industry still recovers from several compounding factors, Deadline aims to track these changes. Look, it's not just that. It's impossible to get things made in Hollywood now. It costs a fortune. The tax credits are much better overseas. You have different rules with unions overseas. They've made it unbelievably different, both politically and within the industry itself, to get stuff made in America. And these companies are looking to save money every way they can. People on this side of the aisle are going to say, look, if you guys had shut up in 2016 and didn't go nuts after the election of Donald Trump, you would have continued to make solid movies, not voice your political opinions, and alienate half of your audience. You might not be in the position that you're in. Oftentimes, I get pushback because I don't boycott movies because an actor says something stupid, even if I think it's stupid. My job here is to talk about the stupidity of whatever it is that they might say, whatever actor it is, whether it's a Robert De Niro, a John Leguizamo, or any of these actors that want to speak out and say something stupid. My job is to talk about it here, talk about what the possible fallout of that could be, which is, of course, lost at the box office. Same thing goes when they make bad movies, lost at the box office. But then to give them the benefit of the doubt, or not give them the benefit of the doubt, but give them a fair shake when the movie comes out, and that happens all the time. Violent Night 2 years ago, just as a matter of course, was like one of my favorite movies. And David Harbour is outspoken politically and annoying. John Leguizamo in that movie, outspoken and annoying, but the movie was great. Didn't matter to me. But am I supposed to care if people boycott these actors' movies because they can't shut up when they're promoting stuff? I can talk about it, but I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it. It's just not gonna happen. So at Paramount, they laid off roughly 1,000 workers in late October, with another round of 1,000 coming soon. That's 2,000 total staff reductions, amounting to 10% of Paramount's workforce. Not hard to believe, given the fact that they just merged with Skydance. Disneyland Resorts, approximately 100 people let go in late October. Amazon laid off 14,000 workers. Access Hollywood, NBC Universal's news magazine, underwent layoffs in late September. The exact number is unknown. Look, one of the reasons if we're talking Warner Brothers, one of the reasons that David Zaslav was brought in was to trim the fat, was to get rid of, jobs and things that they didn't need. That's why people cheered when he wrote off Batgirl, but got angry when he abandoned, Acme versus Coyote? Which one was that? You guys know what I'm talking about. Like, that movie people really, really wanted to see, and people were pissed when he wrote it off. But people were really, really excited and happy when they wrote off, at least on this side of the aisle, when they wrote down Batgirl and saved a bunch of money on it. That's his job. His job is to save money. The Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group will undergo cuts to 10% of its workforce. The news follows the splitting leadership of Warner Brothers and Discovery Global that arrived on July 2028. Look, these companies are cutting staff all the way down the aisle. You look at the biggest movies of the year this year, and you're not going to see, like, the biggest movie of 2025 so far is a Minecraft movie. Now, I don't know if how it works what they'll count it, but I believe that Avatar comes out around Christmas. So I don't know if they carry over all of those box office numbers from the end of its run as a 2025 movie, or if that counts as a 2026 movie. But I think Avatar is going to go on to be the biggest movie. It was, of course, Inside Out the year before. And then you look at these numbers. This is the biggest studios for the year domestic gross. Warner Brothers at number 1 with 13 movies, $1.8 billion. Walt Disney, 1.6. I think it's a dour sign for the industry. The layoffs are not good. Everything going on with that. It's just bad for everyone all around. They're worried about AI taking their jobs. You've seen mass layoffs. They're being forced, people who work in the animation industry, being forced to work for these companies and sign contracts that allows their work to be trained on AI programs so that they can learn. Like, they're actively being hired to put themselves out of a job, and it's just a lot of discontent all around. I don't think that there's any saving it in a lot of ways. I think that the landscape of the Hollywood movie industry is going to be fundamentally very, very different in the next decade, perhaps even sooner than that. But I'm going to continue going to see movies. I don't want the movie-going experience to change that much. I love going to the movies. It's one of my favorite things. I wish I honestly did it more, but a lot of times it's one of those things where when I go, I'm like, why don't I do this more? But I really, really love it. But the movie-going experience for me, I want it to stay the same, but I think the industry as a whole is changing. Let me know down below what you think. Do you agree with me? If you don't know what the podcast is, guys, Pop Culture Crisis is live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, of course, noon Pacific. Hope to see you there, guys. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.